I'm fucking always tired. I started going to bed at 9 o'clock. I'm more tired now than I was when I was going to bed at midnight. I fucking don't get it.
All right. I think the sound is good. Sound is good. See Farsight there again.
Am I supposed to be saying something right now?
Yeah, you can go now.
Oh, there's no advertisements or anything?
Oh, I did them already.
Ooh, that's fast. Good evening and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for Warhammer 40k from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 186. And we're going to talk all about kind of our 9th edition gaming day. I did air quotes there for, because it was a little while ago. Garen got sick. And then, so we'll talk about kind of our first impressions, some of the games we've had. I think we're going to get a little bit in how we're changing our lists and kind of developing our lists now that we've played a lot more 9th edition. And so we'll kind of be focused towards that. So as usual, I'm your host, Chris, at CanHammer Chris on Instagram and Twitter. And I'm joined by my co-host,
Darren, everywhere. Seemingly everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, man. So how you been?
It's been busy and tired, and I had a headache, but it's gone now, so that's okay. It was like looking like another headache cancellation night, but it's gone now. So I think since my kid went to sleep, it went away.
These don't sound real. These sound like you know when you're like, oh, I have a headache. It's because you don't want to do stuff, but.
Oh man, no. When I get headaches, I get headaches, like or a visual or a little blurry and distortion and stuff. Yeah. But luckily, I don't get those really bad ones too often. But any good headache will take care of it. And I get really nauseous with my headaches, so it's like it's hard to do anything because you like constantly feel nauseous. So
Gotta tough it up, man. Anyway, lots has happened. So since our last cast, we've essentially played twice, I think, you and I. We've had 2 gaming days. And I think you've had a couple other ones. And so we played a lot of the new edition. And I guess I kind of want to, before we get into anything else, do you feel that it's that much different than the previous?
yes.
I was going to say the same thing. I was actually surprised how different it is on the tabletop as opposed to just like, you know, you hear him through like, it's basically the same game, a couple of rules changes. But the game, I would say, is distinctly different for those of you that haven't played yet due to quarantining. But I'm hoping a lot of you did get to play. But
Yeah, it's like rules-wise, there's a few key changes that gives it a different feel, but mostly because the missions have really changed. I know some people are like, "Oh, it's just Nova missions." I never played Nova, so I don't know. But just compared to what we were all playing before, which was ITC, the missions changing has really changed the feel of the game. So and also it's kind of like, you know, by the end of 8th, everybody knew what was good, what was not good, and the only thing that ever changed anything was like a new book, right? It was all not solved, but it was like, okay, this is it, this is what we're playing, boom. But now it's like Wild West again.
It's not quite Wild West, and I say that, you know, a lot of people are going to maybe disagree. They're going to say, okay, well, but like all the lists are different now and all the points changed. But really, a lot of the stuff that was still good is still good. Now, like the standard builds kind of, maybe 1 or 2 units got worse, depending on what army it is. Now, some of the armies more on the peripheral, they got a lot better and they changed. But I think like the core good lists for the most part are still like Space Marines. It feels like the stuff that gave me a hard time last edition from the Marines, it still gives me a hard time from the Marines. So,
yeah, for sure.
You know, and I guess that's not a bad thing. My biggest change is that the way that the terrain is just kind of changes the pace of the game, and also the way that the missions are changes the pace of the game. So I find it a lot quicker of a game, and not just in terms of moving models and playing. It's also quicker in that you need to score faster. You need to get on objectives faster. I'm actually running into a lot of trouble this edition because I'm used to maybe the ETC style. Well, it depends on who you're playing and blah, 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 blah. But you would like hold back, grab a couple objectives, chill, take a couple of units out. But now I'm finding myself, if I don't get on those objectives, if I don't push into the midfield right away, I just don't win.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the impression, certainly. And then last night's game against Francois really pushed that into my mind. And it was heavily skewed towards going first, getting on all the objectives, and that's what Francois did. And I just didn't really have a chance. I didn't go forward in the first turn, and I thought that maybe I should. Despite the firepower and everything, just go, otherwise you don't stand a chance. If you allow that first turn player to get 2 turns on you of standing on stuff, that's it. It's like game almost. It's like...
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to just kind of be a little bit more aggressive.
And it's forced me to change my list from what I thought I might want to do to what I'm doing now, as far as sisters are concerned. I guess I've played a little bit with orcs, but they're not necessarily something that I'm trying to strive for competitively. But I've definitely changed the entire style of what I'm used to playing, what I thought would be good, from a slow-paced, survivable, slowly push out to a more aggressive kind of list. We can get into that after our games and stuff like that, where we're kind of progressing with our armies. But at first, I think we should take a quick break and thank our sponsors.
Yeah, so shout out to our sponsors, to Dan and Dylan at Red Dragon. I think they've been doing extremely well with the launch of the new edition. It's super hype, new players and old players alike, and so I'm glad that they're doing well. We got David Tistaminis and Hoyt at Thunder Games and Gifts, and Martin over at Dice and Decks also. And thank you to all our patrons, of which we've got a lot more patrons right now recently, so thank you very much, and all our subscribers and followers. And special shout out to Raul and the boys at Dream Tea, who have made this Custodes t-shirt happen in a very short amount of time. And have also made this our new objective markers, which I just flashed up here on the screen here, which are now available to order, and in fact we've already sold 15 sets of them. And so these are new CanHammer objective markers that are, we hope, a little bit future-proof. So they are for the new 40mm objective with 3-inch holding diameter. And they also have a yellow circle there that you can see that is the old school center and 3-inch, just in case. And they are numbered, just in case, although you don't need the numbers right now. So we hope that you can have these, and whatever happens to the game in the next 3 to 6 years, they'll still be usable for the future.
And they're still usable on the AOS certain missions with the small objectives. So yeah, it's definitely good.
Yeah, there we go. So shout out to Ro and those guys for working hard and getting those things done for us.
Yeah, that's great. I think at first I was a little bit, the new objective side was kind of a little bit of a tick off, like a piss off, but I'm glad they went with the 40mm base because I think it's more accessible to players than just a point on the map, right? But
yeah, and I think that's always been the complaint, right? What is the size of objective, right? They never came out and said it. ITC never really straight out came out and said it, right? So everybody was like, so now it's like, this is the recommended size, and so it's like, okay, let's go with that. So
yeah, unfortunately we had to redo our objective markers, but it is what it is.
Yeah, give us a chance to redesign.
If you don't have a thick skin by now, after things becoming obsolete and then having to buy new ones with this game, then might not be for you, this hobby.
Yeah, I haven't cut up my mat yet, so I'm still good with that.
Yeah, so I guess we could start with that is we've just been using green painter's tape, and this seems to work great. I got the 2-inch thick. You can buy the 2-inch thick green painter's tape.
Yep.
You put that down each long end, works great, and then you put it down on one side. It kind of blends in because it's green. If it was like a desert table, maybe you just use brownish or tan masking tape, but I don't mind it. I really don't. That way too, you can use your mats for AOS if you also play that. And there's got to be other games out there. There are games that are 4x4s, like Free Blades and stuff like that. So just having a roll of this tape, it's like $2 in your hobby room. You can now reconfigure your table however you want, which is kind of nice. So I think I'll stick with that. Definitely not cutting them.
No.
I think that was a meme anyway, but.
Was it a meme? I've seen pictures of some people saying, look, it cuts really well. I'm like, why did you cut it?
Well, good for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
you can do what you want, right?
Yeah, no, I mean the I put that, overlay there, and now there's a place to put my whole army and the dice tray and all that stuff. So it actually works out pretty nicely. It's a nice little setup now. So
Yeah, it worked well for streaming even at my house because we had we kind of had that like dice and rule area type thing. So it
yeah.
was kind of cool.
So now that
Except for
you've
when you came and tried to clean up the dice and you picked up my entire pool of sister's dice and threw them into a pile, and I was like, oh.
You need to get like some separate dice for those, man.
I definitely do, but it is what it is, I guess. I was hoping to spend them faster than I was.
So now that you've played a bunch of games, speaking of the table, what do you think of the table size? Does it feel that much smaller to you?
I definitely like it. You need a lot less to screen the backfield, in my opinion, because your backfield's a lot smaller. So if you have 2 units 18 inches apart, it's like a lot easier to screen. But it's also a lot harder to screen because the characters, with the character rule changing, you can't just use 2 characters to screen like most of your backfield. But with the model count going down, it's kind of nice to be able to maybe have like 2 small units and boom, your backfield's protected. You're also, the reach of the opponent, is there. You can actually reach them because you're still starting the same distance apart essentially. You're not starting any closer, but they can't back up as far, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably the most visible or the most obvious on Hammer and Anvil. Like Hammer and Anvil, if you have a 48-inch range gun, your opponent can get stuff out of range, but it's not a lot. But then again, on the other hand, the terrain also makes it hard to shoot things across the board. So it's kind of, in some ways, it's really good, and in that regard, like it's like your stuff's more protected, but it's more protected by terrain and less protected by range. So I think that one element, and the thing about range that kind of maybe really bothered a lot of people is there's only a couple armies that could really make use out of the reach and the range, and there's a couple armies that made that obsolete. Things like Orcs and GSC, just being able to just go right in your grill, turn 1, made it so that they could cross the board, but other armies just couldn't. And when you're talking about like, in the old days, the Eldar could literally be out of range of all your stuff and then boom, enter it in like really quickly, or flyers. So this gives flyers a lot, makes them more accessible, I guess, for your guns.
Yeah.
Even though technically they can hide behind certain terrain features, right? But
yeah. No, I definitely like the smaller table. I mean, it's not just my own army bias. I just like that it's smaller. There's more action. There's less hiding, and as you say, combined with the terrain, I think that's been part of the big change of flavor of how the game plays. Because the terrain rules are actually very impactful. Not only in terms of what you can see and stuff, but also in terms of the -1s to hit, the cover, and also in terms of your decisions to either go in or stay behind, go through. Like these are actual decisions they have to make when you're moving now. It's not just an auto, I'm just going to this route.
yeah, it's interesting. Now, depending on the ruiner, so some things you have to be 3 inches behind and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to speak very generically, but I definitely think it's a more tactical choice when you're able to say, okay, this is a train piece. I'm going to be behind it. You cannot shoot me. And I'm going to go into it, and I'm going to take your firepower, but get the better save in some cases, or most cases. Some of them, right, you're behind them, it's -1 to hit, you're in them, you just get the minus save. So there's a lot of different variety out there, but those decisions alone just add a deep element to the game. Whereas before, even though the ITC had first floor ruins blocking, but prior to that, it was like, I don't know where to put my guys, like they might as well be in terrain, like there's no difference, right? You can see them. If I had bad terrain, you could just see my guys, it didn't matter, I had to put them in terrain, and you would shoot them turn 1. Now it gives you that kind of, and if somebody has an army where they have stuff that shoots indirectly, and stuff that shoots directly, you have to make that decision, right? Like, which one would I rather take? Would I rather have a cover save against like a +1 save, but get shot by more stuff, or just only get hit by the artillery without buffing my save? So there's a lot more decisions you have to make, and that's the best part. Anything that makes you less random, just more decisions, I guess brings out kind of that tactical element, which makes the game, I guess, more replayable, because dice can always frustrate you and things of that nature, but being able to see your decisions and having a huge impact on the game will keep you, or me anyway, really focused.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've really been enjoying it. And, my table's kind of heavy. I need to clear a couple of pieces off, but I just like having that interactivity of a bunch of terrain. Like, if you're just going to play on an open table, it's kind of boring, right? Like, I just like having that. It's more. It even looks more realistic. It's like you're really fighting in like a little ruined city or something, right? So yeah, no, I've really been enjoying that part of it. The smaller table with the terrain wheels.
And they did a good job balancing it. In the past, we've had like abstract terrain is not a new concept to 40K. I played many editions of abstract terrain, and like behind it, you block line of sight, and it was great. This they kind of had they have a nice balance. Whereas in the previous games, things like Tau, things like Smash Your Guns, they could just like bulldoze you off the table, like no problem. Whereas now, I feel like they've had that balance where the shooting still is very powerful and very good, but it's also balanced with the terrain. Whereas in the past, it maybe wasn't as balanced. So I find that enjoyable. Like shooting is still awesome, and you really want to take lots of it, but it's not the be all end all, right? Like you're not getting table turn one. That's in my experience anyway.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of cry about first turn tablings, but I don't really see how that could happen very commonly.
Well, and a lot of people have
smart.
been saying, and in some of our streams, first turn means everything. And there's a few games where I took first turn and I think I screwed up. I think second turn might be where it's at in a lot of these missions. Just being able to be like, okay, well, you can't really do any damage to me. Take your turn one. Yes, you might score a few more points, but I'll be able to actually damage you turn one.
I don't think it's the automatic decision everybody makes it out to be. That if you win the roll, you take first turn. I think you really have to look at the mission and how can your army benefit from first turn, right? So, like last night, it was obvious Francois should take first turn, holds 5 out of 6 objectives. Now I'm already on the back foot, right? But if he took second turn there, that's a very different game.
Well, it depends, right? So that's
but it
what
depends
I've been
on the
thinking
army.
about.
Yeah.
No, so I've been thinking about that a lot. When you design your list, you have to design your list with the fact that, so a lot of people want to go first. So you maybe got to design so you can go second, or a lot of people that might want to go second. But you need to design your list so that if you go first, you can capitalize on it. And that's a big undertaking because, so what I mean by capitalize is if your opponent's going to make you go first, or if you're going to choose first, which a lot of them are going to do depending on how much firepower you have and things of that nature, you need to be able to get on those objectives. So in the Sisters, I have what are the Dominion squads, which can do a free move before the game starts. I'm basically auto-including 2 of those in my army, period. So I'm going to put them on a ruin in the line. If you go first, those girls are going behind that ruin. If I go first, they're going out in the middle of the board, and then they're going on those objectives. They're raising 2 banners, 1 banner, 3 banners, depending on units, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to raise the banners. I'm going to hold those points turn 1. And yeah, you might come and blow them off a bit, but I'm going to get those secondary points starting turn 1.
Yeah.
So you got to plan for that. Things like Space Marine Scouts, things like Nurglings, things like, what are the guys called that do the 12-inch deep strike for Marines? Geez, Darren, what are they called?
What? Deep striking Marines?
There's the ones that lost you the game. The ones that lost you the game.
Oh, the Inceptors?
Inceptors. Not the Inceptors. The ones that hold the 12 inches you can't deep strike within 12.
Oh, the Infiltrators.
Infiltrators. I don't know why I forgot that. Infiltrators are great for that. Lots of other units. Any unit that can do a pregame move or a pregame scout, to me, are very important. Because Mandrakes can do that? No, they can't. No, they can't. Never mind. But anyway, a lot of pregame, anything that can do that, huge. Because now you have the choice. Any army that can redeploy units, like Francois' Ultramarines, right?
Yeah.
You can put units up on these objectives. Oh, I'm going first. I'm leaving them on the objectives.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to score these extra points. And I'm going to capitalize on my turn 1. If I'm going second, they're all going back behind ruins, or at least some of them.
I think that ability to capitalize and get, even if you're going second, to be able to respond quickly is so key. And like that's why I put the bikes back in my list. I haven't played bikes for a long time, and that's why I'm even considering dropping the Telemon for a unit of Venatari. Give me that 12-inch jump infantry, to try and get out there faster if I'm going first or even if I'm going second. So it's less important to shoot things at the moment than it is to move.
Well, you got to put your opponent on the back foot, right? Like,
Yeah.
So if you go first and you can't, let's say you're like, and some armies probably can't, but most could, like Orcs, you gotta have to jump, there's a bunch of things you gotta do. And I think most books have a unit that could possibly get on 1 or 2 center objectives quite early. And if you don't do that, then your opponent's gonna sit behind ruins and say like, go. And then they're gonna get their little bit of points, they're gonna say go, right? And then they're gonna blow your stuff away that's out in the open, so.
Like, I'm thinking of yesterday's game, it would have been totally different, and Francois is watching tonight, I know, if I had just set up my whole army, no deep strikers, on the line, and then just start like that. Make him come out, because I could have reached most areas of the board from that starting position. First turn.
Yeah, but who won the roll to choose first?
He won the roll, but I had deployed defensively behind my rune quite far back from my front line, right?
Well, let's say you did deploy on the line. If he goes first and he redeploys his aggressors on the line, does he blow off 1 or 2 of your units?
No. AP 0 in the first turn. You're not blowing off any of my guys.
So if you go first, can you reach those middle objectives?
Yeah.
How many of them? Both?
I could probably reach...
Because your stuff doesn't move fast. Your 1 bike unit can move fast.
Yeah, but I could have probably reached the 2 middle ones with a charge because he had infiltrators on both of them.
Yeah, but he would redeploy them if you go first.
That's okay then. That's fine with me.
But then you're not getting on those objectives.
Well, no, I can probably advance and get close enough. But anyway, who knows?
So that's what I'm saying, right? Like, so.
Yeah, it's a cat and mouse game for sure.
Yes, and then okay, you're going first. You're moving forward. You're not on the objectives, or you're on only one of them. You're only going ahead by 5 points, and then he's going to blow your unit off, and then he's going to push forward, right? So I think you got. I don't know. Do you have anything in the Custodes list that can do that? That can redeploy?
We have a relic that lets you redeploy the relic holder and 1 unit.
Okay, so you could put like a unit on the line ready to go.
Yeah.
And then if you go second, boom, they're back in cover.
Yeah.
Behind cover. You could do that. Do you have anything that scouts for the game, or like?
Nope.
Rhinos are really good for this as well. And so the reason I really like rhinos or transport vehicles for what we're talking about is they can go on the line. Hopefully they're obscured, maybe not, and they can drive onto an objective, sit there, pop smoke, and then Buddy's gonna have to shoot them. 2 rhinos, and a lot of armies can take out 2 rhinos. Give you that, and then the unit pops out, right? And they might not kill them.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things like that. And that's how, when I've been approaching building my 9th ed list and evolving my list, which I think we can get into a little bit, is I'm always thinking about that. If I get first turn, personally, I need to be able to raise the banner on 3 to 4 objectives, period. I also need to be able to score all 4 to force my opponent to push me off. And of course with Sisters, it's not that hard. But if you push me off with your Custodes, then I'm going to charge you with my whole army type thing, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely think about that when I make my list. Like what do I do if I go first, and what do I do if I go second? And then that way, you can try and figure out what your opponent wants. So if you're playing Francois, generally with his scouting army like that, he wants to go first. So you want to try and go first against him. So I will deploy and plan to try and go first. But if you're playing somebody like Jason, who wanted to go second, obviously, and put all the stuff in the back ruin and deep struck everything, well, then you want to, maybe try to go second or try to go first and deploy for that. Or deploy so that you go first and take all the objectives.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. Yeah.
It's just very interesting. Like one of the things about our 9th ed gaming day, for me anyway, is I didn't want to proxy a lot of stuff. So I went into the game with already learned some of these lessons, and I went into the gaming day with like a suboptimal list. I didn't have the models yet. I still don't actually. I got to go Friday and get them. And it's kind of like if you don't bring the right tools to win the missions, it's kind of a moot point. You can't win.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing, man, about this edition is like you just really need to concentrate. You really need to build your army for the mission, more so now than ever. In the old last edition, you could kind of build to kill, and do some of the mission and just blow your opponent apart, this one you really can't.
Yeah.
You really can't. Things like anything that scouts moves, gold right now. You're seeing a lot of people spam out those Nurgling lists and stuff like that for that exact reason, right? They get up by 10 points and then they essentially win.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been some spam lists making the rounds these days already.
So do you want to start just running through like really super briefly our games, just so people can, and like how our list evolved from them? So
yeah. Okay. Well, neither of us played the first game, but it was an interesting matchup. Francois was playing knights into Nick's demons. Nick's was like basically a couple of big units of plague bearers, which I think are still very good. And then Ahriman, a big block of rubrics, and what's that big chicken boy called? Lord of Change. Change. And a
Bloodthirster.
And the Bloodthirster, yeah. And Francois was playing 4 knights. 1 Valiant and 3 shooty ones.
Francois went first, pushed right into him,
Right
and nuked a lot of things. Nick needed a couple tricks to go his way because he was on the back foot and they didn't go his way. I was a little bit surprised in this, actually, how well the Knights did. Mm-hmm. I thought maybe that the Knights wouldn't have killed as much as they did right away, but it looked like they really crippled the Chaos Army immediately.
Yeah.
Which I think goes to show that maybe that, like, I know you say Plague Bearer is still pretty good. I don't think they do much, because the whole point of them before was to keep your characters alive and essentially live through the game. And without having those extra modifiers to hit and stuff like that, they just lost a lot of their luster, right, for me, personally. Nurglings do a lot of what you need now, and they can hide better, right? Big units, you can't hide them, then you get blast weaponed, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, the blast in that game was big. Like 12 auto shots on the Gatlings and stuff, yeah.
Like those, blast weapons, blast weapons have almost made units larger than 10 not playable. Almost. I can't think of any that I would take. Like,
depends on the unit, but yeah.
Well, and like same thing, like, so like, for example, one of my favorites was Orc Boys. They're not complete trash. You just don't play them like you used to. You take 1 unit and you maybe deep strike it, or 2 units and you hide them. You can't use them as your front line anymore. You can't use them to line the board. You have to use them to drop in and clear stuff, and then they're going to die. Like, you just have to change the role of that stuff. So if you have something like maybe Bloodletters and a Giant Horde, those might be worth it, right? Because they are going to drop in and they're going to charge you, and they have pretty good odds to make the charge, and they're going to clear that screen. But things like Plague Bearers, their role was to sit in a long line and kind of protect your backfield. Well, that's not good anymore, man, with Blast. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Like, you'll still see hordes, because of course the ones that drop in can't get shot that first turn. They would die anyway, right? So they'd come in, kill stuff, and die. But you still need that. But...
Yeah.
Okay. So what surprised you about that game? Knights winning?
No. I wasn't surprised that Knights won. I'm not sure anything really surprised me too much about the game. I think 4 Knights is probably not good, but 2 Knights with like a bunch of Armigers probably be pretty nasty. But yeah, everyone thought that Knights were dead, but I don't think any army's dead. Everybody's going around claiming certain armies are dead, and this is dead, and that's dead. Well, nothing's really dead right now. Everyone's just starting.
Yeah, allegedly, apparently, people, like, the Armigers are more of a competitive choice because they can fit in more of the places around terrain, and they can clear stuff out. But yeah, I think 1 or 2 of the big guys is still decent. I was surprised. I thought Francois was going to get just pounded, to be honest, just because of the internet rumors of them being, you know what I mean? Like, people, Knights are dead, Knights are dead, Knights are dead. And you're like, okay, they're dead. And then he pulled it out. So this is enough for that. Game 2 was Cody on Jason. That was pretty interesting. Jason took Dark Angels with a bunch of Talon Masters and Deathwing Terminators and bikes. And it was pretty interesting, right? Because Terminators are actually really good right now.
Yeah.
They definitely take the benefits of cover. The Dark Angel ones, which Jason didn't do, can have a 5-up Feel No Pain. You can, teleport Homer the Man, boom, go right in and clear something really easily. They protect your characters. Those Talon Masters, ridiculous shots, and you can't really kill them. I'm glad that we ruled against that kind of technicality that people are touting, which I don't think is a real thing, but where because a Talon Master is a vehicle and a character, and the other one's a vehicle and a character, if two of them are side by side, you can't shoot either of them.
Yeah.
I think that's BS. And
Clearly, it's not intended.
We're not going to allow that in our house, or my house, but it's kind of interesting. And Dark Angel's actually won quite large. I think, some of those Rainbow and Deathwing tricks are pretty nasty now.
Yeah, and apparently in the new codex, Dark Angel's getting like +1 to hit, and Melta's changing, and Plasma's always been pretty good, and so we'll see. We'll see what kind of tricks they get.
Speaking of Melta changing, you see the leak today where multi-Meltas went up to 2 shots?
Yes, and D6 +2 damage instead of the old
half range. Yeah, 2d6 picked the highest.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to go game-wide?
So the difference between this and the Storm Shield thing was that the Storm Shield thing was a rule, whereas this is a weapon profile that says multi-Melta. So...
But they didn't even spell it. They could have just put buggy multi-Melta.
They could have, right? So, like, one would assume it's going to be game-wide then.
So I think multi-Meltas have been, like, besides Sisters, and only one unit right now, even last, I think multi-Meltas have been unusable for a long time.
Well, Melta in general, right?
Melta guns have always been in the game.
Yeah.
They've come and gone, but so if you had like an old Devastator box, your multi-Melta guy probably never saw the table.
No, he got replaced by Grav Guy.
Well, when that happened, but even before that, he never saw the table. It was always last blast.
Yeah.
And then it went to, in 5th edition, you saw a lot more Melta because of the prevalence of vehicles, and then it went back to last class. But
so it'll be interesting to see if that does go, game-wide to all kind of Melta-type weapons, pistols and fusion, and or if it's just the multi-Melta.
Yeah. Anyway, back on topic. So Jason pulled the big win, Dark Angels versus Iron Hands, which is pretty cool. Lots of Dreadnoughts. I've seen the board too. That one was a very quick game. So poor Cody. So it was a tight score, but it was one-sided the whole way. That was also Jason got lucky is that the assassinate rule wasn't fact yet, so you could have a Talon Master that could just pick out characters and kill them, which is huge.
From that trait or the relic or whatever it was.
It's being fixed now, but at the time of this game it was not.
Yeah.
And then I guess it goes on to the next round, which we actually played in. So, who'd you play?
So I played Nick. It was my fated match against the Grey Knights, who I never played against Grey Knights before because they kind of came out and then kind of like COVID hit, and so nobody locally had a painted Grey Knights army, and Nick
now everybody does.
Yeah, now everybody has a painted Grey Knights army, and apparently Grey Knights are dead. There's another army everyone said is dead.
Now, who said that? I don't think they
no, I think what they meant is double Paladin Bomb Grey Knights is dead, and even that I'm not too sure.
So, this is the one thing about the Grey Knight army that will never kill it, especially in this edition. So, no, it wasn't even the double Paladin Bombs. They were saying it's the Smite Spam that's dead. The, 6 strike squads. The double Paladins, I think, are still great.
Lots of people are just saying all sorts of things are dead. I lose track.
I think it was just the Smite Spam kind of Brotherhood list. But now, it's the Paladins are great. They can just shoot. They don't need line of sight. So in this edition, you can put those 10 Paladins in your backfield objective, or even midfield, probably midfield, and you can just blow people off the board without getting shot back. It's huge. It's crazy. It's really good. Screw you people. Those are really good still. They're really good.
No, I can't confirm Grey Knights are still good. And I played this game correctly, kind of pushed up when I had to, Nick split his force when he probably didn't have to, and so I was able to just eat half of it at a time. And
this was your super elite Custodes list, right?
That's right. It kind of turned out okay. They got so many things they need to cast, and now with the Smite not being, like it was before, I only ate 2 or 3 Smites the whole game, so didn't end up doing too much damage to me. And I blocked the one where he wanted to change it to the 2 damage Smites, the spell. So it ended up doing okay. I kind of teching, my lists these days are teching for T5 3-wound elite armies, because that's what we got a lot of. We're not seeing a lot of the vehicle spam that locally anyway, that what everybody was worried about. So I'm teching to kill elite right now, and so those guys did kill a bunch of elites. So
Razorback spam's a thing, dude. Don't you worry.
well, I want to see it. I got all these Razorbacks.
Well, you should use it. They're great. You need to kill 8 of them to max out that secondary too.
Yeah, you could run a whole bunch of those with like a bunch of like normal TAC Marines or something. I don't know. Run the old.
Yeah, I don't even know if you need those.
Yeah, just run the vehicles. Yeah.
So your custodies list was what again?
So I was running a basic unit of 5 Melta Guardians, who I've now since replaced. I was running Bertha, the big Telemon. I was running a big 5-man unit of these Forge World bikes with the flat 3 damage guns, and I was running a 5 Aquilon Terminators.
It's a very, very, very small army.
Yeah, and then the usual couple of characters and the Vexilla.
It's a pretty small army, though.
It is. It does what it needs to do, though. So I haven't changed it. I actually played it almost straight up with only one very small change into Francois' list last night. And even after last night, I didn't change it too significantly for now. I'm trying to iterate slowly rather than jump around like crazy.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go on to my sister's battle, Adeptus Sororitas. And basically, I started off the edition thinking that I wanted to do like a model spam list, which is what I technically owned. Like I own like 200 basic sisters, and I don't own a lot of the new toys. So I wanted to test that out. Didn't go well because they initially, this wasn't this day, this was prior to this, we had the rules a bit early. They ended up just, you still need a lot of punch or else people are going to push into you. So that's why I question a lot of these like super nurgling spam armies, unless they take like some kind of hammer or anvil unit and some shooting, like people are just going to push into you. So I spammed a lot of sisters, went for survivable, and just it didn't go well. That was initially. And then I decided to go for something with a lot more teeth, right? So I switched, instead of taking battle sisters, I actually take, oh man, why am I bad at names tonight? What are they called? The elite sisters there. Come on, Darren, you should know this.
Celestians?
Celestians, there you go.
I know that.
It's just too late. It's too late. It's past my bedtime. And so I take the Celestians because for one more point. So here's like the kind of the breakdowns. You got like the battle sister, they're 11 points, and their OBSEC, their standard sister of battle. For one more point, you get +1 to your hit in combat. You get +1 attack. All characters within 3 inches can deflect essentially wounds onto them. So they just take a mortal wound on a 2+ instead of your character taking like a lot of wounds, which is pretty sick. They can reroll all their hits instead of ones when in range of a cannon nest, which they should always be because the sisters are like a blobbing bubble army of all bubbles. So that's pretty neat. So I started taking them instead. They just do more damage. You lose the OBSEC, but they just do way more damage. And when you're thinking about it, it's a sister unit that rerolls hits. So even in combat, they go up to, if you make them Bloody Rose, they get +1 attack on the charge, and they get -1 AP. And then you get +1 attack if you have a priest within 6 inches. And they get to reroll all their hits because of the cannon nest. And they get, depending on like if you have the relic of, if you have Catherine, the saint, the dead saint, she gives them +1 to hit. So they're now down at 2s, rerolling hits. They go up to strength 4. If you can basically take the Imagine Fire and you can make them have 2 abilities. One of them is +1 strength in combat. One of them is ignore AP -1. And then they have a 4-up invul. So that's pretty good. Like they're on the charge with 4 attacks each, strength 4, -1 AP, rerolling hits. So that's not bad. And Bloody Rose has a strat that allows you to add +1 to your wound. Mm-hmm. So they're actually like really good in combat compared to like even Space Marines and stuff, right? That as we learned, they can't fight aggressors, but they can fight like regular stuff. Like 10 of them can go into and just like cream a unit of Primaris Marines, no problem. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. So I switched to those girls. I want to run 2 units of Repentia, but I don't have them. So instead I put a lot of Exorcists in just to try and increase my range damage. And so I had the rematch against Francois. He had the same list. I had a very different list. I had a lot more combat, and my 3 exorcists. And it went pretty good, except he basically blew up my exorcist turn 1. They didn't do much. And one thing I learned in that game was like the Zephyr just don't do much anymore. Like they drop in, they hit a unit, but they just die. They're too easy to kill. So I got to rethink their role within the list personally, but
because they don't get all the durability buffs. Is that why they die so much easier than the other girls?
yeah, and like I kept forgetting about Auspex scan a few times.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah. Like and toughness 3 getting shot like in the open, it's just brutal.
yeah,
It's just
dead.
brutal.
Everything kills you.
Yeah. So yeah, we had a good game. We had the rematch, which I believe ended in a very small win to me. Right, Francois? I can't remember. I didn't write down. Who won.
This was he just had 1 unit of aggressors in that list. Was that the old list?
That was the 1 aggressor with the 2 dreadnoughts. Yeah, I think I would have done better against the 3 units of aggressors because I had the exorcist.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, because he changed his list. I was going to play the triple unit of aggressors, and then he changed it. So last night I didn't play that unit. That list I played just 2 units, and aggressors are gross. Like they really are gross. Like
they irritate me. They actually irritate me because Francois would push them up, shoot me. Okay, blows up a friggin' unit, no problem. Like any of my units, they're just gone. The aggressors shoot them. It's like, okay, great. Even with my buffs, it doesn't matter. Okay, so it's like, unit's gone, fine. And then in combat, they got 3 attacks each.
And power fists.
And power fists. And you're just like, oh. So you can't, like, shoot characters into them. If you do, you have to put, and so my army's a lot of MSU. And so I didn't have Draxus yet either, which is an Inquisitor that I really want to add, which we can talk about in a second. So I'm basically, running 2 combat characters, my Karen, which is a canoness that murders everything in the world, and then I have Celestine. But it's like if I put them in, I might kill 1 or 2, and then he's just going to power fist the other one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting.
And even when you charge them, they get the +1 attack.
That's the weird thing. Yeah, they outfought me and outshot me.
Yeah.
So I just ended up melta-gunning the hell out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and apparently -1 to hit too. I discovered last night. Yeah.
Why were they -1 to hit?
Some trickery from Tiggy or something. I don't know.
Oh, he took Tigurius. That's right. He added Tigurius in. Yes.
Yeah. So
didn't have Tigurius.
And that's not just shooting; it's also in combat. So it's gross.
Yeah. It's gross.
Being -1 to hit in combat is really gross. There's not a lot of that in the game.
Yeah. That's pretty good. So we played that game. I guess we'll continue through our games and we can talk about this after more, so what we're changing. So that went well. Very fun game, always enjoyable. And then my next game, I think it was me and Jason.
Yeah.
And you played who?
I didn't play Cody because Cody was asleep.
I'm so drunk. Only guy drinking in a party of sober old men. Played Jason. He took Centurion Spam Raven Guard. And I think basically I pushed up and I actually got ahead really early by quite a bit. Not a lot, but 5-10 points.
Yeah.
And then
no, you were up decent in the first couple of turns, and then you started to claw it back starting turn 3.
So I overcommitted in my I was winning and I was sitting on 3 objectives with the 4th one kind of in front of me that I could easily just keep feeding a unit to every turn. And then for some reason I was like, I'm gonna hit his bunker. And I pushed up and I tried to get into his corner, and then he essentially blew up all my toys and then pushed into the middle, and he was able to claw it back. So that's kind of changed the style of my I made a lot of mistakes that game. That
was the Auspex one when you lost that whole unit to Auspex.
Again, it's yeah. Anyway, I was just too much on my mind, but I made a lot of mistakes, and then I overcommitted. And so my new kind of plan based on that game, which I think I knew better, I feel like I knew better, but I just didn't do better, is you don't need to push into your opponent's zone. You just need to take the middle, or your half of the middle, and chill in terrain, right? And so I just got a little bit too aggressive, and I was like, oh, if I don't get into those Centurions with my combat characters, I'm gonna die. And then when I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into them this turn. And I went to go into them, and I was like, oh, that was a bad idea in every way. Like I shouldn't have pushed into him. It's like I just can't deal with this, and just fold it. Whereas if I would have sat back behind that ruin, I don't think he could have pushed into me.
Yeah.
His bubble was really tight when I hit him. And so the one thing that when I lost my Zephyr Immune to the Auspex scan, a lot of it was because I had forgot to drop them in the turn before. So I had planned to drop them in and hit the Smash Captain in the ruins the turn before, and I forgot to do it. And I was like, and then he came in and essentially delayed my middle. So
yeah,
it was just like a lot of mistakes.
Centurions still hurt. They still hurt.
He made mistakes. Yeah, and Centurions are still really good. They outshoot you. They outfight you. And I tried to play the kill game as opposed to the mission.
Yeah.
And I threw away units unnecessarily for no reward.
These were like assault Centurions.
Yeah, well, they're assault Centurions.
Just shoot like a crap ton of shots.
Yeah, shoot more than most units, and they fight better than most units. So that was a mistake. It was a good game though. It was a good learning experience because now I know, or at least in theory I know. But it's like if you get hit with the Auspex scan like 3 times in a row, you're an idiot. So,
but it's one of those strategies that you always forget.
It's not that. It's that like.
Because you're like in your movement phase and you're like, okay, let's put these guys in. And then like you just forget that such a thing exists. I've been caught by Eldar Auspex many times.
So it's happened to me a lot, but you shouldn't forget. It's like there's no reason to. It's just you're just not thinking it through. And the other thing is that you don't need to charge that turn. And you don't need to put them in reserve. I could have put them on the board, and I could have pushed up the flank just as fast. And I could have dropped them in a place that was safer. It's just like, you just got to make these right decisions. That's it. You can't afford those mistakes, which is fine. I've done it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's the issue that I'm having right now is I'm on about game 6 with my sisters, or game 5, something like that. Game 7 ever, I think, in the history of owning the army of pure sisters. I'm on game 7. Okay, so, and the army is all new rules, all new combos, all new distances, all new everything for me. So I find it really taxing at first, right? Like I have to really think about my bubbles, really think about my rules. I have to double check strats. I have to constantly look them up, right? And that definitely takes its toll mentally, whereas when you're more prepared with an army, you've had 50 games, you don't have to think about the little things. You just know, I can do this, and then you can concentrate on the tactics, right? So I'm not making an excuse, that's just kind of the way it is. I find this army very enjoyable because it's very taxing on my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I really like. Orcs are getting a little bit too at the end, right? Guns.
Yeah.
Super shock.
Yeah, so you dropped the Orcs like hot garbage. Not that they're hot garbage, but you dropped them.
Hot garbage.
But no, I'm not saying they're hot garbage, but you dropped them like they were hot garbage. Like, boom, gone.
Well, if you follow my Twitter and my Instagram during the pandemic, I assembled something like 200 Dark Angel models, and I assembled something like 200 sister models, like all my old infantry, and like rebased it all and spray primed it all blue, kind of like before this. So this was a long time coming. I was getting ready to drop the Orcs for a while. It's just kind of...
You did play them hardcore all last year.
Oh, more than that. Last 2 years, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. We left the ETC, yeah, and then I played them hardcore through to the next ETC and then after. So it's probably almost 2 years, yeah, I'd say.
Yeah.
I played Orcs pretty much exclusively. I don't think I played anything else.
No, you didn't. I never saw you play anything else.
But you have to also remember that I had a newborn child. And so when you have, like, I have a 1.5-year-old right now. So for the last year, it was like switching armies was just not acceptable because you can't get the reps in like I can get now. Like now that the baby's like much older and we're back to work and he's good with a babysitter, I can just get more reps in. I can just do more games. So you don't want to be switching armies if you can't get the reps in. So I'd almost say that like if you're preparing to have a kid and you're like, really into Custodes you're 30 games in with your Custodes army, it's fairly new. I would just continue with that and commit to that for the first year or two, and that'll take a lot of pressure off your gaming.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just have less to think about. That's what I kind of did. I knew it. I was like, if I switch armies, I won't get the reps with it, so there's no point.
Yeah, so speaking of reps, how many games you got coming up?
Lots. So we're not quite done the day, but we'll finish our tangent. We'll go back. Yeah, so you're coming over for 2 in, 2 weeks?
Couple weeks.
Francois coming over for 2 next week. Jason's coming over for 2 or 3 in the next couple weeks. I took the day off. We're going to stream all day. Francois and I are going to do it after work, but I'm going to start early, finish early, and so we can get 2 games in. And then we have a tournament August 18th in Ottawa.
22nd.
22nd, 18th of September, sorry, is the next one.
That's the next one.
Yeah, so technically I'm getting like 10 games in August with the sisters. So.
Yeah. Oh, it's hardcore right now. I know Francois is playing 10 games like this week.
Yeah. Well, it's just so much fun because it's new enough that it's super enjoyable. And for me, switching armies and having no major tournaments for the next 6 months means I can just play whatever the hell I want. I don't need to be like, I know this, I think this is a better unit, I'm going to bring it and concentrate on that. I can bring like 3 exorcists and I can bring, some crazy different stuff now because I know that like it's not going to hurt me for the tournament because there's none coming up early. Like these little 8-man RTTs are more for reps than actually winning, right? Because I might not even get the 10 battle points every round at these RTTs for painting because I don't even know if I can finish my army by then.
Yeah, I think it's all about trying stuff right now. It's the perfect time to try stuff.
Yeah. No, I think it's pretty obvious some of my choices. Like I know there's stuff that's better than what I'm taking right now, but I just don't have to rush to it.
Yeah.
Like let's face it, like my army on the weekend was missing Repentia. I just don't own. I own 4, which isn't enough to really list.
4. The Suicide
That came
Squad.
with the starter set. Yeah. So I've already purchased. They're on order anyway. I don't know if they're in or not, but I've already purchased 2 units of 9. So. That'll put me up, but they're just so good that any kind of like we were talking. I think it was Eric and I were talking yesterday. So if you're playing guard, like in my opinion, a unit like a Bull Ogren is a 1+ now because you need something to sit behind a ruin and then pop out and just murder something, or you need something that can push forward. And so for me, the Repentia are kind of that thing. For guard, I think it's Bull Ogrens. Chaos Space Marines have various kinds of Terminators they can do, like, the Death Guard have those like crazy Terminators. Dark Angels have the Deathly Knights. Everything kind of has that. Space Marines have every unit in their book that could just sit behind a ruin and then come out and murder your whole army.
Yeah. Every unit does that.
But so I've been really concentrating on like that element. Like I need something infantry, sit behind, and then go, and it can reach you. To kind of force you to, if you commit to a middle objective, I'm going to murder you. And I needed that, and so I think Repentia for me filled that kind of role.
Yeah. It's actually interesting because I don't have that many units, but I have a unit like that, my Terminators, and I've actually started to come to the conclusion that I should almost never deep strike them. I should just be walking them up.
I kind of think you should have a Land Raider, and the reason I think that is. You can put on a line. If you go first, you just go straight towards the objective, and you say, you got to blow this up, you got to kill the 5 terrorists, and that's mine. Because your Land Raider's OBSEC, right?
No.
Isn't all the Custodian stuff OBSEC?
Not vehicles.
Shoot. But the unit in it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, the unit inside of it is.
So when I played the Land Raider, I really did like it, because auto-hitting las cannons now with the Melta rule, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice firepower, and that thing is hard to kill. Like, but it's still 300 points, which is a lot. It'd be nice if it could carry more guys too, but
no, that'd be gross. You don't need that. What about a Crusader? You take Crusaders, Land Raider Crusaders?
No, we can only take the one type of Land Raider.
Shows what I know about boys in gold.
Yeah, we have the Coronis that can take 6 people, but it is 18 wounds, and so you cannot hide it.
Yeah, you
and
don't
it's
want that.
very large. So that kind of kills it. And it's only 3 up. So, yeah. It does move 14 inches, though. So it moves faster than the Land Raider, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I added the 2 rhinos for that exact reason, right? Put 2 units in them or no units in them up on the up there to kind of take control of that. Maybe run them up a flank, who knows? But I think they're definitely worth it for Sisters rhinos. I'm not saying rhinos for Space Marines because I think
They got impulsors.
they have impulsors, and I think they're a much better option. But for I only have rhinos, and then I have much more expensive rhinos with guns on them that you don't want to use. So kind of stuck. But I definitely think like transport vehicles are very nice and very good for that. So
Yeah.
so think about that. Not in a lot of numbers. So one of the things that I found too in my game against Jason is I took 3 exorcists, and so everybody takes the vehicle killing secondary because they can get 9 points for killing the 3 exorcists. And then so in hindsight, I think I should only put 2 in. And if I put 2 exorcists in, you're not losing a lot because the third one's okay. Like it's great, they're great, but 2 of them will only let you take 6 points off me. And then if I add in rhinos, it'd be like 10. But I think you kind of have to have that sweet spot. You kind of go all vehicles or just one. Like if you go with the Land Raider, that secondary is useless to somebody because it's worth 3 points, and you don't have any other vehicles, right?
Yeah. I'm toying. I'm doing a lot of toying right now in my mind about making my army have a few more units that are not just smaller versions that are much easier to kill because I can't afford to lose units, and giving me mobility without losing too much firepower, and all in the space of a few number of units. So it's a difficult balance right now, but we have so many units actually that could work in those roles. So it's trying to figure that out.
And you only go pure, right? You're not interested in allies?
No, I don't see much point in doing allies.
So like the new Inquisition rules, they might help you out get a couple cheap units to hold some objectives.
Oh yeah, those guys aren't really allies. They're like part of the whole whatever.
Oh, so you're open to Inquisition and like assassins?
I've toyed with it. I really don't want to bring an Inquisitor. I guess you can bring an Inquisitor as not a Psyker, but because being able to abhor and assassinate against certain armies is like free points. Yeah, but I feel like if you're gonna bring an Inquisitor, you might as well bring a Psychic Inquisitor.
No, I wouldn't say so. Like you could just take some of their units for what they are, right? Cheap backfield units. What about Sisters of Silence? Like, could you include them? Have a couple units of them?
I guess you could, yeah.
So, like, how many points are 5 of those? Would they help you out for your backfield? I just feel like your army lacks. I think, like, when I looked at your list, and when I heard Francois' perspective on playing against your list, and then I heard kind of like what you went through against Nick and other people, I just really feel like you lack that backfield board control as a custodian player, and so you're not committing enough of your like hammer units forward or midfield, and that's really costing you games. And so if you were able to like stop people from coming into your backfield and holding those objectives with cheap units behind ruins, then you could commit those Terminators and that Land Raider to the center of the board, right, with characters behind it.
Yeah, I'm not sure the backfield is that big of a problem, but I had too many points in my backfield. So I've actually
That's what I'm saying.
decreased the number of points in my backfield.
Yeah, like so with a pure custodies list with no allies, you're basically unable to, like if you're putting Terminators, let's say, on an objective in the backfield, which you wouldn't do, but that's ridiculous, right? Like what do you use, how many points are holding your backfield right now?
Well, it was 200 and something, but I've cut it down to the minimum now. Because I realized that after the last couple of games, that my Melta Boys were overvalued and not doing anything. So I went back to the 3 shield boys in the back.
3 shield captains?
No, 3 shield guardians. Yeah.
How many points are they?
150, something like that.
Oh, that's not bad. So you take what?
That's my cheapest unit.
Yeah, that's not bad though. 2 or 3 of those in cover on objectives, not bad.
Yeah, oh yeah. Unless you got some crazy out of line of sight shooting and killing those guys.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense then. But because that was like that's the battle plan against your old army. It was like just get behind him, and then he has to either come back with these really expensive units or push forward with these really expensive units, right? And either way, you have objectives.
Yeah.
By you, I mean me.
Yeah, toying with a couple of ideas of actually taking the Telemon out. As much as I love Bertha, and she's one of my favorite models, and she actually does do work, and she almost never dies. I just feel like I don't need that shooting, but I need more mobility and units. So actually, maybe even subbing into palace tanks, 16-inch move, little vehicles, okay firepower might actually be really good for helping me get recon and objectives and stuff, zipping around.
Maybe. I don't know what they do. So those little ones with the 4-up pinball. They all have 4-up pinballs, right?
5-up involves. Yeah.
Only 5-up.
Yeah. Yeah, if you concentrate fire on them, they're gonna die. They're my version of rhinos. 100 points, 16-inch moving, flying vehicles with some flat 3 damage guns. Like, yeah, they only went up 5 points in the points thing. So, yeah, I'm thinking of subbing out Bertha for a couple of zippers.
I've been kind of obsessing over the Callous Assassin recently.
Yes, tell me about this new obsession that you have.
Why I think that way? Well, I just feel like so the Callous is only 100 points, and they've kind of dropped a lot of the rules for assassins, so you can just basically take one. So if you have a battalion, a brigade, or a patrol of Imperium, you can just take an assassin. Same with Inquisitor, right? You don't have to have as inquisitorial detachment, or you don't have to do anything crazy. Next detachment, you just grab it and you throw it in your list. And a lot of people are taking 2 detachments now. So a lot of people are sitting around 9, 8 CP to start the game. And so if you take the Callous Assassin, you can essentially turn battle round 1, you're like, okay, every time that you do a stratagem on a 4-up, you have to pay 1 more CP for it. So I don't know about you, Darren, that's crippling to a lot of armies.
Can be.
Maybe not Custodes, because you have 12, right? But you use a lot of CP to keep your boys alive, right?
Yep.
And then they have a stratagem for 2 CP where you can make it any battle round.
Well, 1 more battle round, yeah.
1 more. Well, any of them.
Yeah.
So that turn when you and I are, like, I'm going to use Custodes because that's what you play. That turn when you and I meet in the middle of the board, and you're like, I'm going to pop all my survivability strats, because this is the be-all end turn. I can essentially clear your CP out with the Calidus.
Yep.
So you spend 4 or 5 strats, you're losing an extra 3 or 4 CP. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I think, and at worst, she just sits in the back in a ruin, and you have to spend some firepower to shoot her.
Well, she's also really, with the new ruin rules and things of that nature, if you put one of your little scout units or one of your, units kind of forward, and then, like, I could easily put her into you and then have her in a position where she can't get that much returning fire. Or, you're right, I can just kind of chill her. You can also use her to just drop on an objective, and she can go in really close. So if I need to take an extra objective that turn or clear you off of a backfield objective, she's definitely really good at that. You don't get the ability, obviously, with CP later on, but that might not be a matter in every game. So, and then the best part is that I can just spend CP. If I really don't need her and I want someone else, I can just swap her out.
Yeah, there's a lot. Then you're spending more CP, but
that's not worth it. You're right, it's not worth it. You probably won't do it, but I like it. I kind of like it. With the Orcs, I didn't have a lot of access to that soupish stuff, but now I do, and she doesn't affect any of your abilities for your army, so that's great. One of the other things I'm really hard on is Draxus the Inquisitor. She's really good. I don't know if you know what she does.
Yeah, she has that paralysis grenade or something.
Yeah, so I like, so Sisters of Battle, or Adeptus Sororitas, they're essentially an MSU combat army. So I need to, and this Inquisitor can go in my rhinos, transports, keep up with my army. If I do the foot blob, she can keep up. If not, she can go in a rhino. It's no big deal. She can go in, pick a unit, you always strike last within 1 inch, which is pretty good. And she's decent in combat, power fist, like 4 attacks. She also has a smite power that lets you pick the target. So one of the problems I've had is things like Custodes characters, very hard to kill. But she can smite them. And then I also have Braziers of Holy Fire on my Canonesses, which allow me to pick a character and do D3 mortal wounds on a 2+, once per game. So I can essentially drop somebody's character that I need to drop with them. And there's very little you can do to stop me, which is really nice. So I really like that character for that. Just being able to, there's a lot of characters that I don't want alive, because if they're alive, they're going to really mess me up. And I can't risk fighting them. So like some of your Custodes characters, I can't send any of my characters into them until I've taken 3-4 wounds off them. And now I can't. I can just take 3-4 wounds off them, send them in, I just need 1 wound to get through, you're dead.
Yeah, that's why I was toying with the Alaris again for the sniping, just purely for the sniping. Being like yesterday, I picked off Tiggy, which didn't really make a big deal, but just being able to make your character stay back, or being able to pick off the characters, 2 CP.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
That new Space Marine character, the really ugly one, that looks like he's straight out of Age of Sigmar, basically picks a unit within 6, you strike last. That guy needs to die. If you're engaging that guy needs to die.
Yeah.
You're playing that Grey Knight army, there's a couple other characters that need to friggin' die. So now, like, snipers aren't as effective because, well, I don't know what your take is on this, but they removed the sniping through walls thing from the eliminators.
Yep.
I
think that's great.
Yeah.
There are too many rules.
So now with the ruin rules, it's so easy to not get sniped, but so snipers don't necessarily do it nowadays, but a lot of these abilities do. So.
Yeah, it's like, here, lose a rule. About time. Stop adding rules.
Yeah, but a lot of the reason I'm looking at Inquisition stuff is that I made like the perfect. So this is how like you kind of think that you're onto like a really good army. When you sit down and make an army list, and you're like, oh, this is perfect, and then you add up all the points, and you're at like 1,750 or 1,800 points. That's glorious.
Yeah, I don't have that. I'm usually over by 300.
So I'm like, I could throw a little Inquisitor in. He adds that utility. Throw a little Assassin in. Ooh. Because the issue is like, I don't want to throw another vehicle in, because if I throw another vehicle in, I give away that secondary. Too much, right? So there's a few issues, but it's cool. Yeah. So I don't know if we, so I guess we can go back to finish the game day. So I think we had one more game set after that, or 2 more.
Well, you had the late night game against the Taunar.
Yeah. So Taunar's not as good as I think it was hyped up to be. I went into that game super scared, but you can literally just put your army behind ruins and shoot it, because everything can basically see it.
Yeah, and they can't see you. Yeah.
And they can't see you, so that was pretty cool. And it died a lot easier than I thought it would, and it's still relatively expensive. So I definitely went into that game more scared than I should have been.
You were. I noticed that, because I was there for the beginning of that game, and I was like, well, Chris is like scared of this thing.
Yeah, I was definitely.
But then I knew that you would win, because you're like a savvy kind of player. So.
Oh, thank you. I definitely just played the mission and didn't really try to kill the Taunar. I would launch Sister's unit using the Miracle Dice, so I would just be like, I'm gonna run auto 6 +1. I'm gonna spend one CP. Sorry, I'm trying to memorize my strats, but it's not going well because I have child brain. 1 CP. I'm gonna advance and charge, and I'm gonna charge 12 inches into you, because I had +1 in my advance and charge. And I just went in and just like charged drones and like stealth teams, tied them up. You know what I mean? Just get on that objective. And I did a lot of cool things like that, which were kind of fun. Actually, that's one of the things that really cost me against Jason is I overspent my CP by accident because I was playing a strat wrong. And having that ability to be like, I'm gonna move, I'm gonna advance, I'm gonna charge, I'm gonna get on that objective and fight you, is huge. Being able to guarantee it, like moving 18 inches, is huge. So, but I was using the fallback and charge I was spending 1 CP on it, but it's 2 CPs. So.
Yeah.
It sucks. So I didn't have enough because I done goofed. That's part of the learning curve, though. You get those out at home. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really digging this edition. So, do we have any questions, or you want to go to questions?
Yeah, so people on stream, if you have questions, let us know. There were a few questions on the Discord. Let me just pull them up here.
We kind of babbled on a bit this show, but I think I would like to get more. I think I'm really close, personally, to be able to grade and talk about all the different units in the Sisters list. I may not be able to say the perfect list, because I think it's too premature for that, but I can definitely give, like, what units, how to run them. I can pretty much do that rundown now, so that might come soon. Orcs, I don't have a clue, man. That's the thing about the Orcs is all the lists that I think are good, I don't own any of the models. That's frustrating.
And you probably don't want to like go and do all that again.
Well, I'm kind of, as you said, I'm kind of done with them for now. My Mega Knob Smash Gun list actually did quite well, but against Francois, it'll be a tie game. But
so the only question we have, so there have been a couple of tournaments. So Stephen Box hosted a tournament that he almost won out in England, and that was won by Alex Harrison playing Salamanders.
yeah,
There were mostly kind of Marines and Custodes and Tau kind of in the top list there. And then there was a smaller event called Wizards Asylum, which was, I think, 7 out of 10 of the top players who were playing Custodes, but I don't know if that's going to be repeated. So the question for us is, what do we think are some, top 3 factions right now?
well, that's pretty easy. I don't think Tau. They're not there for me. Not even close. If somebody wins with them, good on you, man. You probably just know the book cold, and you're probably a really good player. Space Marines is top 3. I wouldn't say they're top, but they're top 3 for sure. Next, I said it was easy, but I would put Space Marines.
It's hard because I haven't played against a lot of these.
But it's like, what kind of, like, Grey Knights don't count as Space Marines, right? So, yeah, Space Marines, Custodes, and, like, Space Wolves are up there. But I don't know, do they really count as Space Marines? Like, how far do you want me to go? Like Dark Angels are really good, Space Wolves are really good. Space Wolves are probably better than Dark Angels. So I would say, like, I'm liking Space Marines, Custodes, and I'm grouping Space Wolves and Space Marines when I say that. And then I'm really digging, I don't want to say Sisters of Battle because I think I'm too biased on that, but I think they're really good. I just don't think I've been playing them 100%. Grey Knights. I think Grey Knights, man. That's why I don't know why people think they suck. I think Space Marines, Grey Knights, or Custodes are the 3 things that are like I would bring. And if you're getting more granular, maybe Space Wolves are better than Grey Knights, but I don't know if they're good enough to be like their own choice. You know what I mean? Like in this list, right?
Well, they're all going to be in October squished together again.
Yeah, so that's what I'm kind of going off, is that the rumor is that they're all going to be in one book except for Grey Knights. And even Death Watch is going in that book, by the way.
Yeah.
So if we're going by that, then yeah, Space Marines, Custodes, and Grey Knights are like my top 3 picks right now.
Yeah, it's hard to answer this question because I haven't played against most armies.
And the reason I say Custodes is because even though it's hard to say, right? Like, I'm sure you don't feel that they're like the top book or one of the top books, right? Based on your games, but I just think that they give that like survivability in cover, lots of shots, lots of good stratagems. You can't really fight them. So I really like
think
it.
they're a top book. Yeah, it's okay.
I think Sisters are right up there.
Yeah.
I heard like Tyranids seem to be okay. Spore Mine Factory, a few other things, which is something that I don't really delve into too much, so I don't know a lot about it. I think Orcs are pretty good. I think the Death Skull Orc list is really good. It's a lot of stuff that I just don't own, so it is what it is. But
Death Guard apparently is very good.
I don't know. I know they're really good. I just don't know what build there is. I've seen a lot of the Nurgling heavy builds with like some Terminators and stuff, and I don't know. I don't know about them. They might be really, really amazing. I'm not saying they don't. I just don't know. with them. Thousand Suns, I think, are really good. I think Thousand Suns might be up there as well.
A lot of things seem very good right now, actually, which is great.
So it's a hard question.
AdMech seems good.
So that's the other thing is people are like, oh, AdMech's so broken, AdMech's so broken. Then you talk to someone else like, oh, AdMech's okay, but they're not great. And then I just don't play it enough to like really like play with it. I mean, to really be like, okay, this is what's broken. This is what I want to do. And I don't know. I think like right now is the time to buy any army. I wouldn't buy Tau, sadly, right now. Arguably, I'd hold off on Eldar because I think the way that Eldar have been played in the past, like unless you already own a large Eldar collection, like you're going to need lots of Wave Serpents, lots of Dire Avengers, some tanks. Like you're going to have to build that build. And so if you don't own that build, I'd say maybe wait for the next book before you do anything crazy. Same with Tau. And I'm really curious what Necron's going to be like, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they're going to be good.
Who knows? But they could be terrible. They were terrible last time. So.
That's true. I'm just shouting out to Phil because I'm hoping for his sake that it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil's.
I think it's.
I'm playing Phil next week, and he's bringing all the new models, which are mostly kind of combat oriented. So it should be an interesting game. I've never played a like combat oriented Necron army except for like maybe some raids or something. So,
yeah, they're usually shooting.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Any other questions? No, that's it.
No, that's it.
Great. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We'll let it go. It's way past my bedtime.
All right.